I'm Heidi Shedlock. I'm a South African artist. I paint lots of flowers, but mostly I'm just inspired by the world around me. So welcome to my channel, A Creative Life. I hope you will stick around. I hope you'll come and join me. I'm a teacher, but I gave up full-time teaching a long time ago to pursue my own creative practice. But of course, once a teacher, always a teacher. I still love being able to share my materials, my passion, the things I love to do. And on this channel, I share a lot about my sketchbooks, which is a bit like a creative dumping place for me. And it is the start of my creative journey, which leads to my paintings and all the things I do in my studio. So I hope you will stick around and introduce yourself and say hi. Now, this week I want to share something with you that I actually filmed last year, just prior to having my surgery. As most of you will know, I took a bit of a break from YouTube because I had some surgery last year, and I actually filmed this just prior to having my surgery, and so as a result never got around to sharing it, but I'm sharing it today. There are some birds outside my studio making a huge noise. I'm not sure if you can hear them. I do apologize. But this is about take 5, so I'm not going to start again. What I wanted to say is that in these little video clips, I share with you some big mistakes that I made when I was purchasing some art materials last year. Now, I don't know if you are like me. When I walk into an art store, I'm a bit like a kid in a candy store. There's so much eye candy around. There's so many delicious, yummy, gorgeous looking art supplies, and I am never able to walk out there with just the things I went in there for. It is so distracting, and there's just so many wonderful things to see, and well, I may have been tempted by something that I should have known better about buying, but I'll share it with you today. Most of you will know not to do this, but in the hopes that it will maybe help one person from avoiding this mistake, I'm going to go ahead and share this with you. There were actually 2 mistakes I made, but the first mistake was actually due to the fact that I left some very important tools behind. It's a bugger getting old and leaving your glasses behind when you go to the shops. I've just got back from one of our local art supply stores because I recently bought a set of, can you see these? I recently bought a set of pastel pencil crayons that I've been loving incorporating into my sketchbooks with when I use some soft pastels. So these are soft try that again. Soft pastels, but they are in a pencil form. Excuse the hair, it is so hot today and I cannot find a hair clip, so scrunched my hair up using a paintbrush, so I look a bit weird. It's so hot today. So I have just dashed off to the art supply store because I saw that they were suddenly having a sale on their pastel pencil crayons, and they have marked them down to half price. Now, I've been loving using these in my sketchbook. I've been loving incorporating them and layering them up, using them over some acrylic, using them in my sketchbooks in a very, very similar way to how I use oil bars over my oil paintings to draw back in and create texture. So I couldn't resist going back to the store because they had them set at half price. And so I'm going to show you some of the colors that I picked up today. And I'll hopefully show you how I use them a little bit. I also may have picked up 2 other things that didn't really go there for, but they were also on sale, so I'll show you those to you as well. I actually forgot to share what the brand of the pastels were. The brand name is Gioconda. It's not a common pastel brand. Not sure if you can see it there. It's obviously going to show you backwards, probably when on the camera, but it is not a well-known popular brand, but I've actually really enjoyed using them. I have also recently bought some more colors to add to my collection, and these ones are the Krita color ones, which I'm more than happy to tell you about if you would like to know about them or the colors that I chose. So let me know, but the ones that I'm using in today's video are the Gioconda brand. Now, before I went to the store, I quickly looked at the colors that I had already and did a little swatch of them and wrote their numbers down so that I could ensure that when I went to the store, and I took a photograph of it, when I went to the store, I could ensure that I didn't get the same colors. I was aiming to look for maybe one more pink, and I definitely wanted to increase the number of greens that I bought because I wanted greens for foliage, and I was hoping to get one or two more blues as well because I also sometimes love to work blues into the foliage in the plants. But I didn't take my glasses with me, fatal mistake, and of course I seem to have got two colors that are the same. This is number 20, it's the same color, and this one I think is the same color as this, so I've doubled up on two colors, unfortunately. But anyway, I got this gray, which I think is pretty similar to 44. This is it's also 44, so I doubled up on 3. Oh, how irritating. Anyway, I do think that I got two lovely greens, so this is another lovely green, and so is this, so these will add to the greens that I have. I got two lovely blues that will add to the repertoire of blues that I have available. And then I got a golden yellow because the yellow I had was more of an ochre yellow, which is beautiful. So I thought that this yellow will actually be lovely to layer up over things, even to layer over greens a little bit. It could make a beautiful color. So those are the extra colors I got. And then of course I was tempted by a paint that I saw there. It is a craft paint. Now the light isn't showing it very well, but I thought that I would give it a try. I just loved the color of it. It is called Sage Green. It is a craft paint, so I don't know that it's a paint I would use for work that I was selling, but for my sketchbook I absolutely loved this color. It's a bit of a gray green. Probably should have given it a bit of a shake beforehand. Give it a good shake and let me test it. It actually feels quite transparent as I'm putting it on. So I don't have a brush, so I'm just using my fingers. Now the way to tell, and I'm bumping you, apologies, the way to tell the quality of an acrylic paint is to see how much the color changes as it starts to dry. I really love the sagey green color, and I think it will be beautiful to put down and start to layer up things on top of. So I'm going to let that dry and see what it does. It does feel a little bit transparent as I'm putting it on, which probably means, I'm not surprised, it's just a craft paint, probably means that it really isn't very pigmented. Obviously doesn't have very high pigment quality, but let's see how it dries and let's see how much the color changes, because that's the thing with acrylics. The lower the quality is, the more the color will change as it starts to dry. So let me let that have a change. And you know, even if I used it as an undercoat for something and then worked on top, I just thought it's a beautiful neutral green for some foliage. So I'm going to let that dry for a bit. And then they were also having a sale on their chalk pastels. Now I love to use chalk pastels as a way to layer up an area, especially to get some color in for skies or for foliage. And I just love this golden color. This feels a little bit scratchy. Actually no, it's not. I hate a scratchy pastel. This one feels a little bit scratchy, but maybe it just needs to be used a little bit. But beautiful to work into foliage. I also love to then take something wet and be able to work back into the pastel, especially if I'm just working in my sketchbook. It's a nice way to layer up and get some color happening. So let's have a look. Oh, look at those two colors mixing. Look at the blue and the green together. Let's put some more of that blue down and see. Move it up a bit. Let's layer it. I'm just using a water brush here. Get some water going. Interesting. That actually makes a beautiful sagey green similar to that. Okay, well, I quite like those pastels. They're both colors that I don't have in soft pastels, so I thought I would give them a try. This one feels really nice and soft, so maybe this green one just needs to be worked a little bit more. I'm trying, let me see the name of them. It's a brand I've never heard of before.
Toussaint d'Or. I don't know how you say that. Anyway, I just love these colors, especially this green. I love this green. It's like a gold green. All right, before I carry on, I want to let this dry a little bit. I'm going to come back and see how it layers up, and I'm also going to test it to see if the color changes a lot. Often if an acrylic doesn't have that much pigment, it will dry a lot darker than what it is. Already it's seeming a little bit darker than what it was in the bottle, but anyway, let's have a look. I'll come back and join you again when it's dry.
Now, I'm not quite sure why I felt the need to try this craft paint. I'll hold it up, can you see there? It's called crafty paint. I mean, the name alone should have put me off, because most craft paints really don't have much pigment added to them. But of course, if that's all you've got at home, I always say use what you've got in your sketchbooks. Your sketchbooks are a place to play, and you don't need to be using expensive materials in them. So that's why I thought I would give this craft paint a try. Now, while it is drying in my sketchbook, what I have also very quickly done is use my normal set of acrylics that I use in my sketchbooks. I have quickly mixed up, it's not quite a sage green, I'd say it's more of like a French blue. I took a little bit of blue, a little bit of orange to neutralize it, added a little bit of white to it, and have made a pretty similar color just to compare the quality of the two paints. Now, this pot of paint definitely won't go to waste. I'll definitely use it in my sketchbook. I may not go and buy any more of the glorious colors that there were, purely because I can mix most of those colors using a very simple palette that I have. I think I got lured in by all the beautiful colors on the shelf. I honestly could have walked away with about 20 of them. Beautiful cerise pinks and stunning sky blues and golden yellows and so many beautiful colors. I really did just get lured in by the rainbow of colors in front of me. Most of them I could really mix myself on the palette. I really don't need to go buying a whole lot of pots of cheap acrylic paint, craft paint, but I was lured in with the color and I thought I would test it and show you. So I am going to compare though to my ordinary acrylic that I use and see how it fares. I also really don't want to use this in my sketchbook if it's super shiny. If it dries super shiny, which I've got a feeling it may, because being a craft paint, it's probably less pigment, more filler. And if it dries shiny, it's going to make my pages and my sketchbook stick together. So anyway, let's see if it's dry and I'll give you a peep. So it is exactly as I thought it would be. Look at that beautiful color that I was lured in by. Well, the paint has dried nothing like that at all. It has dried probably about 4 shades darker than what it looks like. Let me put a little bit of the wet paint down so you can see next to it how much darker it is. So it has dried about 4 shades darker than what the paint actually appears to be in the pot. And secondly, it has dried completely transparent, and that is because of the amount of filler or medium that is added to the paint. So not much pigment, lots of filler. And by comparison, I put down a bit of paint here that I mixed myself from my ordinary acrylics, and you can see how beautiful and matte this is as opposed to this one here, which I really don't like at all. So I won't be lured in by these cheap crafty paints again. Crazy Crafts, I don't love them at all. And it just goes to show what I always say: don't buy the cheapest, rather buy fewer things and buy a better quality. You don't need the most expensive for your sketchbooks, but if you're only using the cheapest of the cheap, which believe you me, this was the cheapest of the cheapest paint there, in the most amazing colors, which really lured me in, but it really isn't worth it. I would rather have spent just a little bit more and bought fewer colors if I was looking to purchase colors. Look at how opaque that is, how beautiful and matte it is. Far nicer to work on. And this is how I would normally layer up my work. So I would take some pastels and I would then work into this. If this was foliage, oh, it's not even drawing very nicely on here.
as opposed to this. Look how lovely that goes on. Let's get another color. Let's get a blue. There we go. So I would normally layer up my work like this. I will use something to build out the bigger shapes and then work back into. Actually doesn't feel too bad with the chalk pencil pastels, but I definitely don't love what is underneath there. Although I might just end up using it maybe for some landscape or something like that. I'll use it up because I've got it, but I definitely won't be buying any more. The other thing I wanted to show you is, and I always get asked this, about putting down pastels and then working into them with water. Obviously that's not probably how they're meant to be used. Pastels obviously remain being able to be smudged if you have not yet fixed them. Okay, so you always need to spray them with a bit of fixative in your book. However, if you've worked over them with some water, chances are they're not going to smudge as much. Look at me running my finger over there where I've used water, or down here where I've used water. It's not actually going to smudge. So if I am traveling and I don't feel like taking my paints with me, I just feel like taking some dry medium, I do then have the option of working the chalk pastels like a bit of a paint if I go over them now with a wet brush. So I find them quite lovely and versatile. And then of course they're not going to smudge. Look at all those beautiful muddy lovely colors, absolutely gorgeous. So that is how I would use them. And the chalk pastels too, while they're a little bit more firm than what the pastel sticks are, you can also work into those a little bit as well. So I do love working with some chalk pastel, both in stick and in pencil form.
Now, I know that if some of you are pastel artists, you are going to be looking at what I've just shared, thinking, Heidi, you know nothing about using pastels. So if you are absolutely horrified about the fact that I got over my pastels with some water, I apologize. But you know what? I love to use art materials in as many different ways, and I'm not really a rule follower. So if you are a pastel artist and you're wondering why on earth I'm putting water on them, I do apologize, but I do love the effect that it can sometimes create. I also just want to say that water is not a way of fixing your pastels onto your page. Although if you have put a little bit of water over the pastel, as I showed you in the video, it doesn't tend to smudge as much as if you haven't. But a little disclaimer, I did want to come in here and add that it is not a way to fix your pastels. And as a matter of fact, even if you have used water, there is still that chalky dust, and there really isn't anything that is adhered that chalky dust to the surface. So it might still help you to put a little spray of fixative over your image anyway. And as I say, apologies if I have offended any pastel artists. And I also just wanted to add that most of you, if you're an artist, will know that buying cheap acrylic is a no-no. But you know what? I wanted to share what I did anyway, because maybe there'll be just one person watching who has always wondered why when their acrylics dry, they change so drastically. I always get asked in workshops that I'm running why acrylics, the color changes so much when people are working with them. And I'm always amazed how many people don't know that the more your acrylic changes color as it dries, or the darker it gets, the less pigment there probably is in your paint. So I decided to go ahead and share this with you anyway, although most of you will know this. Maybe there'll just be one person who has always wondered why your acrylics dry so much darker. Now you know.